A very good morning to you. Welcome to Rise and Shine Monday. Of course, it's another day, another week, and yeah, more like the beginning of the working week. And hope you rested well enough to also have a very, very productive week ahead. My name is Janice Cobham, and I'm super delighted to welcome you yet to another edition of Rise and Shine Daily. Thank you so much, and welcome.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful Easter Monday, public holiday to be alive. I'm sure you're well rested, kicking back in your house right now with a cup of coffee or tea in this very cold morning, especially here in Akwa Ibom. Thanks for joining us once again. My name is Uyai Aniakan. Would like for you to be a part of the community, join the conversation. So follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. You can also do well to call us on our phone lines. That will be displayed in the course of this program. Send us WhatsApp or text messages. Let's take your contributions on the show this morning.
Good morning,
Good
Uyai.
morning, Janice.
Another day on set, and more like it's still Easter, right? Happy Easter, Easter celebration. Of course,
Yeah.
it's still what do you call it now? Public holidays. A lot of people are just at home. The public holiday will be finishing today, so tomorrow work begins in earnest. But there's something called what was that word now? There's a name for it. It's keeping my memory.
Okay.
So people that come to work, whether it's weekend or
essential staff.
Yes,
okay.
Essential workers. So kudos to essential workers.
Essential workers will need essential things to
Exactly.
because I think it's part of the conversations we're just having this morning.
Yeah.
So every time the holiday happens, the same, there's a set of people that
Yeah.
are always there, so there's never breaks or anything. There has to be a way to break us up.
Yeah, definitely. Essential workers doing essential duties. I think for the name essential workers, it should make us be proud, right? We should be proud of ourselves that we are essential workers. So nothing works without us. Come on.
All right. That's all I was saying.
Okay, so yeah, all Rise and Shine, we get to discuss a lot of topical issues affecting Nigeria and also across the world as well. But let's start with some flash news before we even get into our major conversation for the morning. Is Easter, so most of our conversations today will be tilted towards the Easter celebration. But just a quick one, Uyai, flash news. The Owo Church reopens 10 months after deadly attack, and that was yesterday that the church reopened. And I'm like, okay, we thank God. Maybe healing has taken place in the Owo city or community as we have it. We can't like fail to remember what happened that early morning of a Sunday where gunmen, took up the church and killed scores of people. It was just a bloody day in a war. But 10 months after that incident, the church has reopened.
It's good to hear that the church has reopened, and especially because sometimes for you to deal with trauma, you need to face the environment, where those things happened. We know it might still be a really difficult time for the people in the Owo community or even people, parishioners in that particular church. But then it's good to see that they have taken the steps, and we do hope that, as a people, we can all just journey beyond the hurt and see how we can continue to build, a more unified state and a nation, as it were.
Yeah, definitely. So June 5, 2022 will continue to remain in the minds of those in our community as a bloody Sunday. That day was actually a Sunday where parishioners and Christians went to church and gunmen attacked and killed scores of people. We hope that gradually the healing process will take place and life will return back to normalcy for those worshiping in that church. But we can't take away this fact that the memories will linger for a very long time. And you can imagine the fear of those going to worship in the church, whether there will not be another attack sometime. But we just hope and pray that, that never happens again. But still talking about, praying and Christianity, a lot of messages have gone out this Easter. So our major focus this morning rather major stories, part of our major stories this morning is looking at what the can president actually said as his Easter message to Nigerians. And I'd like to take that in his Easter message to Nigerians. The president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Archbishop Daniel Oko, has called on the country to rise above its challenges and start afresh. The message, which was made available to journalists on Sunday, which was yesterday, urged Nigerians to be hopeful and steadfast in their faith despite the many challenges facing the country. Archbishop Oko acknowledged the difficulties that Nigerians are currently facing, including insecurity, economic hardship, and social and political unrest. However, he emphasized that these challenges are not insurmountable and that with faith and determination, Nigerians can overcome them. He went ahead to say, as a nation, Nigeria has faced many challenges in recent years, from insecurity and economic instability to social and political unrest. However, just as Christ rose from the dead and brought new life to the world, we too can rise above our challenges and start afresh. This Easter, let us all come together and renew a commitment to building a better Nigeria. The Archbishop also called on Nigerians to embrace the values of love, peace, and reconciliation, which are central to the Easter message. He urged Nigerians to work together to build a better future for all, regardless of their religious or ethnic background. According to him, let us put aside our differences and come together in unity, just as Christ's resurrection brought. It cuts across some of the major conversations or major messages the president, of course, President Muhammadu Buhari, has also said as to his Easter message. And then again, I think the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has also said something along those lines. But I think at this point, Archbishop Daniel Oko is asking that Nigerians sheath their sword, whatever the grievances may be. This is more like a time of healing for everybody. And we should put the nation first in our prayers and share the message of love, peace, and unity, as it were.
It's a good thing to see that we have persons at that level speaking up, and I think it's also inspiring, more like to see him saying, let Nigerians sheath their sword at this time and let's attempt to move forward from the place that we are. Peace and unity is one thing that we cannot renege on, in terms of the place where we have found ourselves as Nigerians. And like we continue to say, this season is one for sober reflection. Gives time for people to really think about the things that are most important to us. And just like the clergy in charge of Khan had said, Nigeria should be the most important thing. The state of Nigeria should be more important to us right now than whether I am Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Ibibio, Efik, and the likes. The state of Nigeria should be more precious to us than trying to push individualistic conversations. Yes, at this time. And faith is faith and religion for the longest time has been used as divisive line. Longest time, political elites in our country have handled religion and faith in a way that it has caused division amongst Nigerians. But if we have minders of the system that say, okay, we are still going to use these particular tools and unite the people, I believe we can achieve that as a nation. And some of these admonitions that have come by different people, the president himself, the vice president Sibajo, had also spoken in this season, admonishing Christians, Nigerians, to also be at peace with one another, love and serve each other with the things that we have. These are things that continue to mark the season, as it were. What you will not do to yourself, don't do it to another person. And for the Christendom, the Easter season is marked with reverence for sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice are we willing to make to see that Nigeria moves forward and we do not stay in the tension that the country is currently marked by? I think it's just very, very instructive. I think that was the word I was looking for us to be hearing and coming in contact with these kinds of body of information.
Yeah, definitely. But let's look a little little bit at what President Muhammadu Buhari, is trying to say in his Easter message now. According to him, he's very personal, in terms of talking about the elections and the outcome of the elections. I think that's what his Easter message comprises of, basically the elections. And for the most time, after the presidential election, you find at every point where the president has to come out and say something, he's always referring to the presidential election, more like let everybody sheath their sword, and try to move the country forward. But there's something I saw here that I'd like to share about his comment. It says, at the heart of Easter. Okay, so at the heart of Easter is the triumph of light over darkness. It is a season that reminds us that the Almighty can turn an unpleasant situation round for good. And then he's also recognizing that Easter is about renewed hope and a glorious future. And like, as a conclusion, he's like, I urge all Nigerians to continue to be confident and believe strongly in our country as for better seasons ahead. I don't know. I'm very cynical about this particular comments, by President Muhammadu Buhari. It cannot be better with just talking talks. The country should be better when you talk and work the talk and put institutions and structures in place that will actually bring the country to a place where we can say that it is better. I was listening to, I think, a House of Representative member the other day, talking about the fact that they should do something about the jackpot syndrome, especially in the be able to give back to the country like in 5 years. And then people were asking questions like, is the health sector viable enough for people to, even for these doctors to work in? Is their welfare also priority for government? And then again, if our leaders do have a headache, do they visit these hospitals in Nigeria, or they run outside the country for medical tourism and all of that? So it goes beyond saying the country will be better. It is something that we have to be very intentional about. So if we are saying the country should be better, then we should be able to see that the incoming administration, whoever is going to be sworn in as the president at the end of the day, should be very intentional and very practical about the things that we see in the country.
Yeah, those are a lot of, that's a lot of things that you have, said right there. The president's speech, like we have continued to say every time, has left gaps for a lot of questions and concerns on the part of Nigerians. We continue to see, things just left unattended by some of these speech, and then just move forward as a nation, and then just leaning back on that that new policy that is running around, the 8th Assembly. We see it's one that has been welcomed with a lot of resistance and uproar, from Nigerians. When you're looking at and you're saying, okay, one way for us to handle the jackpot syndrome in the health sector is for us to put more stringent measures on the doctors, but not on the, not on the federal government to do better by them. But always ask, when you're pushing forth these policies, who are you pushing them for? Is it in the good of Nigerians, or you're just, so that it doesn't look like you came to the house and you never pushed the policy?
Yeah.
You push a policy that is not well thought through. Because like you raised, one of the pertinent questions asked is that these doctors that you're saying they shouldn't leave Nigeria, most of them are the ones that still attend to you when you go to foreign countries, for your medical tourism and all of that. This is a lot of question. Does the president, Easter message at this time touch on the issues that are really affecting Nigerians? One would think it's a little bit you, and Nigerians must, accept this, at this time. But it is what we have seen.
Yeah.
I think the most instructive thing is that the season that we are is one that can change pleasant, unpleasant things to pleasant things.
Yeah.
And that is, like one bracket or small hope that people are also having. When you look at the widespread reactions of election nationwide, some people are just saying, okay, maybe let's just try it out and see. It might not be as bad as we think, but let's see how we can take this on from there and just move up to our very, very next story.
I think before we even move up to
Okay.
how Akwa Ibomite spends their Easter,
Mm.
we also have that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. I like that he has said, you know, that the problem of Nigeria is not ethnicity or religion. And I think that people, according to him, people, you know, pushing this kinds of story should rather stop pushing this kinds of story and look for what the problem is actually, and not, you know, want to say that the country is divided along ethnic lines or religious lines. Just leave religion and ethnicity out of the whole issue of Nigeria. Nigeria's problem is beyond just this, you know, ethnicity and religion that everybody seems to be pushing, because it seems to be that, you know, the whole Easter message, you know, from all the people
Course.
that have pushed Easter messages is like, okay, along religious lines, along ethnic lines, let's shoot our sword, let's not do this, let's not do that. But I think that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is of a different opinion here, and he's saying, look, it goes beyond that. It's not that at all, at all. It's something else. But at this point, we are, just like you said, we'll take a next story, and that will be showing you how Akwa Ibomites decided to spend their Easter celebration. Let's watch.
And the church sang hallelujah because Christ is risen. Today happens to be Easter Sunday, and Christians the world over are celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. As you already know, the whole of this week was Holy Week, filled with different activities where Christians the world over, where we are feeling the pulse of Christians as they celebrate the 2023 Easter period. Let's get to hear from the people how they feel about this year's Easter celebration.
Today, we join Christians all over the world to celebrate the joy of the risen Lord, to celebrate Easter. This is Easter morning, and Easter is a defining and watershed event in our lives as Christians. It is the bedrock of our faith. Without Easter, you and I would not be here. Without Easter, we would not be Christian. There will be no Christianity. St. Paul in the first letter to Corinthians chapter 15, verse 14 says, if Christ had not been raised from dead, then it would be like the people suffering from a kind of hallucination. But because Christ has risen from dead, then our faith has a sure foundation. And we have every reason to rejoice because of the victory that Jesus Christ has won for us through his suffering, his death, and his resurrection. We have every reason to sing and dance and shout. We have every reason to sing hallelujah because we are Easter people, and hallelujah is our song.
I'm so excited and I am encouraged because God, Christ has conquered death. Christ has gained victory over sin. Christ has averted the damnation which I, as a sinner, would have undergone as a result of my sinfulness. So, Easter is a time of rejoicing. Easter is a moment of my being. He came to the world to set us free. And through his victory over death, he has been able to conquer sin. He has been able to, the light has triumphed over darkness. Righteousness have triumphed over falsehood. Goodness have triumphed over evil. And so we as Christians, we are encouraged to walk in the path of righteousness, knowing that our life is not, you know, ended here on earth. After this life, we have another life, which is eternal. And whatever we do here on earth determines the kind of life we live after now. And so this Easter is a moment of love, a love of righteousness, a love of goodness at all times.
If I say I feel wow, it will be an understatement, because this year's celebration reassured me that it's not over. This year's Easter celebration has reawakened my hope that, not minding the pressures of life, that Christ has always conquered for us. This year's Easter celebration gives me hope that there will always be victory, no matter the volume of evil. It gives me the hope that there will always be joy at the end of it. That no matter what life, the pressures of life that we go through, because Christ has conquered, he came out of the grave, even when men concluded that it was over, even though he himself pronounced it on the cross that it is finished. The world might think it is finished in the negative way, but with the resurrection of Christ, it is finished meant for us Christians that our burdens have been taken away, that the deaths that we were supposed to die have been taken away by the death of Christ. So Easter gives us the real experiences for this year's Easter.
I feel good. You know, when you are talking about Easter, it's a true reflection of what Christ came to do for us. It's not easy for a son of man to come down and take all those sufferings on our behalf. He was tortured, he was done all sort of things, and he still bear with us. And suffering that we were supposed to undergo, Christ did that for us to live, to take away the pains, the punishment, and all. You know, our sin are too enormous, but God came and died for us to take away that sins, and make way, pave way for us, so that we can leverage in everything that we are hoping to enjoy on earth.
Easter is family. What a wonderful year. Number one, from election, I must put it, because from there we get our redemption and we get our freedom of good election. And very much important thing God has done for Nigeria this year. He said, and the Bible says that when the righteous is on the throne, the people rejoice. Do you know, in the history of Nigeria, for 100 years of election, God appointed the righteous, 2 priests, one in Akwa Ibom, one in Benue State, 2 governors to be a priest from the throne of grace. But we want to wonder whether they will mind to do the truth, whether they will maintain that statue in them. Because he sent them to go and represent Christian there and do the truth, which God wants, so that Nigeria will be good. But we don't know whether they will go to compromise themselves, as usual, color of the politicians. Coming to Easter, Easter is always is a wonderful period of Christian to rejoice for the salvation Christ has given to us. From his sovereign to his burial to his restoration. From there, rise and conquer the evil world and give us that salvation where we have today. So every cause, every man, every Christian has a cause to rejoice.
My
If there was any day people do not go to church, obviously not yesterday.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Obviously not yesterday, because everybody was in church.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that everybody seems to be preaching the same message of love, the same message of sharing as well. So it goes beyond you just assembling, your family members and, you people just sharing gifts and all of that. But I know that the person representing a synodum too, is it a synodum now? Yes, said something about even visiting orphanage homes, giving back to people that are less privileged, at this point in time. It's all about the message of love. Let that love transcend beyond you to some other person, and it will definitely make a whole lot of difference in the community.
Yeah, at the end of the day, just like you were saying, Jesus in his word says, I came to you as a beggar, I came to you as a sick person, I came to you as one who was in prison. did you come visit me? Did you come and help me? It's not just spending what we have or being with the people at our level, but being able to recognize that we need to share love with the people, quote, what people believe about the season, how they spend the season. And I hope you have done right by your faith also in this season. But at this point, let's move to the news brief desk where Mary Joseph is on standby to bring us tidbits of global news. And when we continue, there's more conversations of things streaming out of this country. Restructuring is a big conversation. Are you a part of it? And what are your thoughts? These and more are conversations we'll be having on Rise and Shine. Do stay with us.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord. I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
Voting for Spectrum TV
To you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. Our first report this morning is that the Supreme Court has so far delivered 272 judgments in the 2022-2023 legal year. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, made this known in a statement while felicitating Nigerian Christian and Muslim faithful on this year's Easter celebration and the ongoing Ramadan. He, however, said that Nigerians should abide to the Christian faithful religions and also Muslim Christians. Away from that, the Nigerians have joined the counterparts across on the priceless sacrifice and limitless love of God for dear mankind. He said as the celebration goes on, Nigerians should remember it is an obligation as God's children to exhibit the virtues of love. The former Lagos State Governor also advised the people of Africa's most populous nation to eschew divisive, pro-child, ethnic and religious sentiments and rivalries. In education, the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board has announced a new date for the commencement of the 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examinations. The board disclosed this in a statement signed by its Head of Public Affairs and Protocol, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, in Abuja. Benjamin said the UTME, which was earlier scheduled to commence on April 29, would now start on April 25, 2023. Nation, but could not sit for it, have been rescheduled to retake the mock examination on April 18th. We head now to the foreign scene where Israeli forces have struck multiple military targets in Syria in retaliation to the 6 rockets being launched into the territory it controls overnight. According to media, the attack from Syria comes from Israeli force stormed one of Jerusalem's most holy mosques during Ramadan, with videos populating showing Israeli police officers beating Palestinians with batons and rifle butts at the mosque. In sports, Roberto Firmino scored a dramatic late 2-2 equalizer as Arsenal's lead at the top of the Premier League was cut to 6 points in an incident-packed encounter with Liverpool at Anfield. The Gunners were in cruise control with a 2-goal lead inside the first half hour at times. We'll have details of the stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
Voting for Spectrum TV.
One truth, not often.
All right, many thanks for still being there. It's still Rise and Shine Daily, and we just came off the news brief desk where we had Mary Joseph tell us some of the global issues happening across and in Nigeria as well. And just to bring you up to speed with some of the conversations we've had this morning, of course, we talked about the fact that there's been some Easter admonitions across the country from the CAN president, Archbishop Daniel Oko, to, of course, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. And we also saw the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, also gave his Easter message, telling Christians and, of course, Nigerians that the problem of the country is not on ethnic or religious lines. Vice President Osibajo also was one of those that also gave admonitions to Christians this period. And then we also brought you some clips about how Akwa Ibomites celebrated the Easter celebrations here in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. And of course, at this point, we'll just go straight to our daily spotlight, where we get spotlight is next.
Front pages of our national dailies, The Nation. The big story there this morning says governors under pressure over security vote spending. Federal agencies NFIU, EFCC seek movement of accounts to CBN for proper monitoring. We also have to do justice. Clerics ask incoming governments to keep Nigerians alive. We also have here Oshibajo, Obasanjo, others pay last respect at Ajibola's burial. Buhari, Tinubu, governors, Ishola, Mon, ex-ICJ judge. APC asks tribunal to dismiss AA, APP, APM petitions. Attacked or war Catholic Church reopens months after. We also have here banks, oil firms, others, flout stock spelt out. We have here Pope clerics surge trust unity in Easter messages, okay? Pope and clerics urge trust and unity in Easter messages. Gunmen kill ASP, injure others at Lagos checkpoint, 15 killed in road crash. These are all the stories that we have on the front page of The Nation this morning.
Okay, CBN loans for 30,000 gas stations. Now that's talking about fuel subsidy removal. Marketers seek CBN loans for 30,000 gas stations. And the writer says gas stations to cushion subsidy removal effect, as PMS may sell for 750 naira per litre. NATO wants end to subsidy. NLC to meet incoming government over removal date. We also have that asset declaration defaulters may be removed from office. Okay. Can governors others preach love at Easter? Buhari, Osibajo, NBA Mon, ex-ICJ George Ajibola. We move forward to other stories here where it says Bishop demands justice for 41 Owo attack victims as church reopens. Federal state lawmakers to get 49 billion naira. Bandit / government bars online banks from accessing customers' photo and contacts. Page 22 is where you get that story from. And of course, we see a pictorial story of how some Christians actually celebrated Christmas here. Sorry, Easter. Am I talking about Christmas on April? Okay, so Easter, I beg your pardon. And that's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
Moving on, we're going to look at This Day newspaper, the front page of This Day newspaper, and the big story there says Tribute pour in as Bola Ajibola 89 is buried in Abeokuta. Buhari, Obasanjo, IBB, Tinubu, Oshibajo, Atiku, Lawan, Abiodun, Sanwo-Olu, others mourn, pay last respect. I appointed him AGF against position of people who described him as controversial, says ex-military. Have here at Easter, Nigerian leaders advocate love among people. Oshibajo, CJN, Obaseki, Khan, others urge reciprocity and Christ-like values. Falake on rotation of governorship, its turn of Kogi West for fairness, justice. Okay. We also have a World Bank advocates debt restructuring for poor countries. We have here a picture story, farewell to a prince of the golden era of jurisprudence. Okay. Autumn, we will not be provoked into taking escalation of banditry in Sokoto. Informants sabotaging our efforts, military officials hint. We see here with 89 expected assets, Nigeria to top Africa's upcoming oil gas project by 2027. And these are all the stories that we have on the front page of this day newspaper.
We move now to the very next paper, which is going to be the Daily Sun. Daily Sun says, big story, Kuka to Supreme Court. Don't disappoint Nigerians. The writer says, task Buhari Tinubu on unity. Have Easter, Osibajo, CJN, Kalu, governors, Mba, others preach unity, love, hope, and sacrifice. Cardinal Okpaleke knocks CBN over Naira redesign. Don't allow economic political situation weigh down your faith in God. Bishop enjoins Nigerians. You can find that story on page 8. CBN, total inflows to investors, exporters window hits $1.49 billion in March. That story is on page 2. That's where you get details of that story. Enugu APC suspension of Nnamani Chime, others unconstitutional, says legal advisor. Page 6 is where you get details of that story. And quite a sad story here on page 4 of Daily Sun says, Day of Blood, sorrow in Lagos, Enugu. Writer says, gunmen kill police, injure others, endorse Carlo for Senate president. You can find that story on page 26 of Daily Sun. And I think that's just all that we have this morning on the Daily Sun.
We'll take our very last paper, and that will be the Nigerian Tribune. From Southeast thickens. Group cautions northern contestants. PDP eyes NAS presiding officers post. These stories can be found on page 23 and page 24. 10 there of some of the church members who might have gotten affected during the situation, right there on wheelchairs attending the service. Such a sorry situation. We also have here Kuka to Buhari. I don't know whether you are fulfilled as president. Those are such strong statements right there. Prince Bola Ajibola 1934 to 2023. Nigeria's unity, says his son. Traffic chaos looms as trucks besiege Lekki Port for cargoes. Absence of Holden Bay worrisome. Truckers electronic call-up coming soon, says MPA. Banks network failure. Fraudsters target customers migrating to digital payments enemy. It will paralyze medical profession and medical students. Okay. Those are all the stories that we have here on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Serious matters arising.
Yeah, definitely serious matters. But as the conversation keeps going on, obviously, vice president, and you just have a couple of months left. Are you fulfilled after 8 years of sitting on the saddle of governance in Nigeria? I think that's a very pertinent question. But this is where we get to receive reactions from Nigerians on some of the stories making the headlines on our national dailies. If you have been following, we've reeled out so many stories on the front front pages of our national dailies. Some are more like stories that cut across all the national dailies this morning as observations, whether your opinions. Generally, from last week up until this week, a lot has happened already in the Nigerian political space, in the economic space, in the social space. What do you think? What's the way forward? Not going to be letting doctors move out of the country again. What do you think, at this point in time? Do well to call us. The phone lines being displayed on your television set. And when you do call us, please, please, and please again, do well to turn down totally the volume of your television set so we can have smooth conversations at that moment. While we're expecting your calls, I just needed to look at the last week. I think during the weekend I also saw former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo in attendance of that particular burial. Of course, he died after battling with a protracted ailment caused by old age. Now, the former Chief Judge of the International Court of Justice was 89 years. And let me just read out a little bit of what he said about his father. With very deep heart and gratitude to Almighty Allah, our dad, Prince Bola Jibola, departed this world over midnight. May Almighty Allah bless him with Al-Jannah of Nigeria from 1985 to 1991, and a judge of the International Court of Justice from 1991 to 1994. He was also the founder of Crescent University, Abeokuta, and presiding of the Nigerian Bar Association from 1984 to 1985. He was also one of the 5 commissioners of the Eritrea-Ethiopia Boundary Commission, organized through the Permanent Court of Appeals. Have said he is one of those that have pushed for the good of the nation in general, and it's good to see that Nigerians have come out en masse also to celebrate this iconic hero of our time.
I think he made his investment into, especially towards national unity,
development.
I think salary.
Oh wow!
He never took a salary for the things that he did. So it did me a quick snap back to the person of Peter Obi, now the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. So it's more like we have these kinds of men, people, scattered all across the country until events like this turn out for you to know that there are people making, enormous sacrifices and have a very, big chunk of faith in the statehood of Nigeria. I think it's beautiful to give back nature more like to the state of Nigeria. We do hope that, for the sake of sacrifices as such given by the late Bola Ajibola, that we would see, the people who are still alive and saddled with the responsibility of navigating.
Yeah, definitely. But again, may his soul continue to rest in peace. He was put to laid to rest according to Muslim rites, I think yesterday or so. APC government may reopen talks with aspirants. Group cautions northern contestants. PDP eyes National Assembly presiding officer's post. I think there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of lobbying here. This Kalu, that's Ojo Uzo Kalu now for Senate president. A lot of talks. I remember that we also tried to talk about some of these issues the time he came out in a video to say that it is his turn, and we were like, okay, so it's all about Emilio Kon, Emilio Kon for presidential candidate. Emilio Kon, is my turn for National Assembly candidate. Is it just your turn, or you have the capacity to steer the wheels of the leadership in the National Assembly?
And there's actually something you actually do hope to achieve.
Yeah.
Not that, oh, it's your...
Yeah, there's a lot of lobbying because it's not something you just get like that. There's a lot of lobbying ongoing right now, and that's why we see that some group have endorsed Ojo Kalu. So it's more like they're playing their cards well. I was hoping to see the likes of Gospel Akpabio also, on the lineup. Of course, he was part of those on the lineup for this particular position. But we've not heard much about Gospel
Akpabio. We've not heard so much about other contestants for that matter. It's mostly like Ojo Kalu right now. He's the loudest, if you're talking about lobbying for the position, is the loudest that we are hearing right now. Maybe in the next couple of weeks it will change. Maybe the rest are doing some underground work, but Ojus or Carlos seems to just be like, let's be loud and clear that I'm interested in the seat right now before others begin to surface on the scene. But you know how politics can be. Within the next couple of weeks, all of that can change. But I think this is one of the stories that I saw here that, I'm still kind of concerned. It's still about the lobbying and, trying to get things in place. When we say that the APC asked tribunal to dismiss AA, there's a lot of audacious statements and moves made by certain political parties in the country. And we are wondering, where exactly are we headed with this? When you say that the APC is asking the tribunal to dismiss the petitions from these political parties, is that is that within the prerogative of the APC to do, or it is a judgment that has to come by the election tribunal themselves? But you're seeing the APC ask them to do that. There's just a lot of concerns with how much we are giving and taking from the system at this time.
Yeah, definitely, and all of that. But just like you said, it also depends on the court to decide whether this is weighty enough to go through, or it doesn't have that constitutional backing, or it doesn't have that weight, to be pulled through. But at this point, we just take a very short breather, and when we come back, of course, just like I had introduced the other time, we'll be looking at restructuring. And there's just a big demand on this particular, or the incoming administration, to see that restructuring works in Nigeria. But the question many people have been asking is restructuring even possible in the country? Let's not forget, this is not the first time Nigerians have been demanding for restructuring. These and many more we'll be looking at when we do come back. Just stay with us. All right, thank you so much for being there. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine Daily, and we said that when we come back from that breather, we'll be joined by our guest to look at the issue of restructuring in Nigeria. Is it even possible for us to restructure this country? Why are some people forward? But joining us to discuss this and many more is Jide Ojo, who is the Executive Director, Oja Development Consult, author, columnist with The Punch, host of Development Focus with Jide Ojo on ITV, and public affairs analyst. We woke up to very cold weather.
Very cold.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter too, sir. Thank you so much for joining
I'm
us.
I'm waiting for my Easter gift.
Oh, fantastic. It will definitely get to you. But how is Lagos this morning?
Well, I'm in Abuja. Abuja is fine.
Okay,
is
Abuja. Sorry about that. I thought it was Lagos. Okay, so Uya is also here. Uya.
Good morning, Jide. Restructuring Nigeria. There's a lot of clamoring, and just after this particular round of election, we have now continue to see more people ask that the incoming administration, look squarely into restructuring. Now, it's not even something that is starting with this particular administration. Several administration, I think the strongest will be from when the former president Olusegun Obasanjo was in office. He even put together a conference, and several other people have tried after him. So let's look into restructuring. Is restructuring of Nigeria, what does it entail? What does it mean? So let's break it down for everyone first before we even go into the nitty-gritties of the conversation this morning.
All right. So thanks much for the opportunity to be on your platform this morning. I greet the good people of Akwa Ibom State, the South Nigeria as a whole, and the entire country. Happy Easter to all our Christian brothers and sisters. May the risen Christ, may we have the blessings of Easter. And to our Muslim brothers and sisters who are observing, early from the civil society and the media, it is generally believed, actually, when you look at governance, there are three arms of government: local government, and three arms of government. You have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. So people have said, okay, in the First Republic, we practiced what was called Westminster parliamentary system, where, and then under a Westminster or under a parliamentary system, you have what is called fusion of power. So for you to understand the entire gamut of restructuring, you need to look at three tiers of government: federal, state, and local. Horizontally, talking about executive, legislature, and judiciary. Now, as I said, in the First Republic, we had parliamentary system of government, which is a government of primus inter pares. Primus inter pares means that everybody gets elected into parliament, and then the party that produces the highest, that wins the highest number of seats, get to form the government. And from this, you appoint one person into an executive position as the prime minister, as we have seen in the case of Britain and several other countries that run parliamentary system of government. So you also appoint cabinet ministers from the parliament. So I've tried to explain. Then in 1979, Nigeria moved to presidential system of government, where a candidate stands for the office, stands and run for the office of the president, and people get to vote directly for that candidate. Unlike the parliamentary system of government, you can remember that Rishi Sunak didn't stand for election. Likewise, Liz Truss, likewise, Boris Johnson, likewise, several prime ministers of Britain, because they are appointed from the parliament. But in the presidential system of government, you have candidates, you have people who will stand for election directly, and that's what we have. Now, coming to the issue of restructuring, people have said, advocated this. Look, for instance, Section 147, sub 3 of the Constitution, 174, sub 3 of the Constitution says you need to appoint Are you listening to me, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are.
You need to appoint a minister from every state of the federation who must be an indigenous of that state. Uya and Janice, does it make sense?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
That Nigeria with ailing economy, by virtue of that, meanwhile, we copied from US, the presidential system of government in US. Let me shock you, sisters. In US, there are only 15 secretaries. 15. They do not appoint ministers on state basis. They appoint ministers on the basis of what job is there to be done. Only 15 ministers. They call them secretaries. But Nigeria, that is ailing, that our debt is at the treasury of over 60 trillion naira. Nigeria must have minimum of 36 ministers because the constitution says so. Let me shock you. The number of seats in a state assembly is minimum of 24, maximum of 40. Constitution prescribed it. Now, Bayelsa, which is an adjoining state to your state, Bayelsa has 8 local governments. Bayelsa have to subdivide each of the local government into 3 domains. Kano have to merge some local government to come down to 40 seats. And people are saying this presidential system of government is wasteful.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Why must you have 40 member status of assembly? What are they doing? Why must you have minimum of 24? If you have 8 local government, why can't you have 8 status of assembly? One person representing each of the 19. Only 10 of them have been running at those status of assembly because the others refused to be inaugurated. You remember the face-off between the APC and PDP in Edo State, where during inauguration in 2019, some members were sacrosanct that we must have minimum of 24 seats and maximum of 40 seats.
Okay, so
then you go to the number of ministries, departments, and agencies. We have over 1,000 MDAs. Over 1,000 MDAs drawing budget every year. So this is part of what restructuring agenda is supposed to take states. But even if we have 36 states, did you recall that the last constitutional amendment, which is still ongoing, that some states are still seeking further division, that they still want Nigeria to have more states? In my part of Oyo State is demanding for Ibadan State. Anambra wants, what is the name of this, their own state. So many people, about 15 new states are being demanded. So must we, meanwhile, US states, but only 2 senators represent each of the states, whether it's Vermont, which is one of the least populated states, or New York or California, that is very big. Every state in US has only 2 senators. Why must Nigeria have 3 senators? Why? What is the basis?
Okay, so Jide
Let me shock you.
Okay.
They scrapped, 2017, yes. They scrapped their Senate. Senegal in 2011 or thereabouts scrapped their Senate. They just go unicameral. After all the states in Nigeria has unicameral as. Or can't we have the number reduced from 3 senators to 2 senators or 1 senator per state? And the Senate, the House of Reps, do we need 360 members of House of Reps? Some 4 or 5 years ago, Italy decided to reduce the number of their National Assembly by 1/3 to reduce cost of governance. So these are some of the things that we are also saying in Nigeria, that we need to reduce cost of governance, more so that we are a developing country, we are less productive, we do not have industrialization, and yet governance is taking over 80% of our revenue without value for money.
Okay, talked that should also be part of what we are trying to restructure. Now, the devolution of powers to state is also one of those things that people are saying that, look, we need restructuring in the country. And then others have also raised very pertinent issues as resource control, state policing, and even federal character principle. And I think the federal character principle is one of the issues that have raised up that, so just put us in the light of some of those things. And I know that, okay, the local government was that now, yes, it's one of those things.
Autonomy.
Yes, autonomy of local government is one of those things that a lot of people are pushing. And let's not also forget that restructuring, it has called for a lot of secession. There's the Yoruba people that have the Arewa movement. Is it the Arewa? Yes, the Arewa movement now that are calling for secession. Yes, and then there's also the IPOB from the southeast that are also saying, look, we want our own Biafran country. Now, put us in the light of some of those things.
Okay, so Janice, the truth is this. All that you have said, part of restructuring, you talk about resource control, fiscal federalism, and all of that.
Yes.
But, it's and then the federal character principle, if you read section 4 of section 4 of the Constitution, it already has provision for federal character principle, that for national unity and national cohesion, we should have federal character principle, but that is being misapplied. And that is devolution of power. What about even when you devolve power? How does that help to reduce corruption? The fear now is that, okay, let me take the issue of state policing. State policing has been on the front burner for a long time, so much so that under this administration, a lot of people felt the way we can overcome our security challenges is to allow the states to have their own policing system.
Exactly.
And what people forgot is that in the First Republic, Nigeria, there was state policing, there was even local government policing. There was what is called LA police, local authority police. In the First Republic, to scrap them and come to say, we need one federal policing system. It is because of abuse of the past. Many people don't know that political parties used to be regional and local government based in the First Republic. In fact, there was also provision for independent candidacy. Between they have to scrap anything that is state or region or local authority, and everything seems centralized. But let me hasten to say this. The recent amendment, or what I will call alterations of the Constitution by the federal, by President Buhari, some 3-4 weeks ago, has taken care of some of the agitation. States cannot generate, transmit, and distribute their own electricity. Also, prisons. Prisons has also been moved from exclusive legislative list to concurrent legislative list. Also, railway, which has also been agitated. Railway has now ceased to be on the exclusive legislative list and has been brought. Are looking for is, in fact, they are saying let's
Jide, sorry, let me bring you back a bit. Will you now say that some of those things, that the president has removed from the from this list to the concurrent list is what is really affecting Nigerians? Is that the primary issue? Is that the primary issue?
It's part of it. It's part of it. See, you need to look at issue of restructuring holistically. Way back in the between 1979 and 1983, Lagos State wanted to have metro line. This same President Buhari was head of state then. He denied Lagos the opportunity to have metro line. He cancelled it. Had it been that this as the administration just completed now? So now we have legal backing. Look at the issue of Amotekun, the agitation around Amotekun, Ebubiagu, and all the security outfit. If there is a constitutional provision that devolves security and defense from the exclusive list to concurrent list, many states will have had a well-structured state policing system that could buy arms and ammunition to kit their state policing system. But because that is still on the exclusive legislative list, even when you set up state security outfits, you cannot get them to buy AK-47. Nobody will sell to the state. They can only sell to government because there was a point in time where the US refused Nigeria access to buy arms because they said they were misusing it for. Look at the issue of fiscal federalism. Federal judiciary, federal legislature, that's National Assembly, have been on first line charge on consolidated revenue fund since 2010. But state judiciary and state legislature has remained as an appendage of the state government. They do not have independent funding. They do not have autonomy. That is why in 2018, that alteration that took place that now say that state assembly, state houses of assembly, and state judiciary will now draw their funds from first line charge of the state consolidated revenue. That's why it's very important. And you can see how the states stoutly resisted the implementation. Even when President Buhari came up with an executive order 10, they still took the federal government to court, which is why there was a state legislator to draw their funds from the state consolidated revenue fund. That is part of what is envisaged under fiscal federalism. Okay. That federal and state institutions will draw their funds as an autonomous body. They will have financial independence, unlike being at the mercy of the state governors or look at the issue of local government autonomy.
And we think that can happen in a country like Nigeria, where the governors are always wanting to interfere in some of those things. Especially, yes, you wanted to bring in the issue of local government autonomy. We've been talking about that and fighting about that for the longest of time.
So they have stoutly resisted the financial autonomy for local government.
Yeah.
Because many of the governors use joint account, joint state and local government account. That has been grossly abused by the state governors. And you know why they don't want to let go. That joint account of state and local government, many states, I don't know whether Akwa Ibom also set up or establish what they call LCDAs, Local Council Development Authorities. Lagos started the LCDA scheme when in 2002, Lagos State created additional 37 LCDA to complement the 20 local government that is constitutionally recognized. And that was the basis by which Obasanjo will tell that's Local Council Development Authority. But the Supreme Court, in its ruling, said no. State Assembly can actually create or legalize the establishment of Local Council Development Authority, just that for them to now be getting funds from the federal government, there must be consequential alteration of the Constitution to list those new local governments on the Constitution. Because as we speak, only 768 local government and single government accounts is that when they receive funds, like in Lagos, they get funds for 20 local government. Sanwo-Olu, as governor of Lagos State, will now redistribute these 20 local government funds into 57 places. So 20 local government that were constitutionally recognized and 37 LCDAs that were not recognized by the federal government, they will now redistribute the funds to manage and ensure governance of this local. So that has been the reason why the state governors have refused to let go, to allow for local government autonomy. And of course, because of poor funding of local government, even workers in local governments have not supported the local government autonomy, believing that if the local governments are allowed, if the state governors are not allowed to pay for the workers of local government, the local government will continue to hold them backlog of salaries, as we have seen. Because naturally, from the constitutional experience, primary administration, the bureaucracy of local government are supposed to be paid for from the funds of local government. But because of what I've told you, this re-engineering, social re-engineering, where governors will go ahead and set up or establish LCDs, and now the funds that are meant for the local government that are constitutionally recognized are now further redistributed into both the what the exercise from 2010 has been incremental. This alteration of the constitution is the fifth in the series since 2010. That's like how many years now? 13 years. We've altered the constitution 5 times to incrementally allow for fiscal federalism, to incrementally also allow for devolution of powers. Like I said, prisons now has ceased to be on the exclusive legislative list. Electricity has ceased to be on the exclusive legislative list. Railway has ceased to, and the president to constitute their cabinet within 60 days. In my state of Osun, when Aregbesola was the governor, he did not constitute the cabinet in 1 year. He was running the state like a sole administrator, no commissioner, in 1 year.
Okay,
Buhari
so
came in 2015.
because of time,
Buhari
because
came in
of time,
2015. It took Buhari 6 months to constitute his cabinet. 6 months. Now he has signed a constitutional alteration that says that as a president, you need to constitute your cabinet within 60 days. As a governor, you need to constitute your cabinet within 60 days so that governance can run smoothly.
exactly. And I like the fact that you even brought in, tried to break question now. Why is it that, there's a huge demand on on the incoming administration to see that restructuring is taken very seriously?
Now, it's because people see Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a Democrat. As a Democrat, someone who believes in rule of law, someone who has been as a NADECO member. He was a NADECO member, National Democratic Coalition, and that was why the Abacha regime, wanting to arrest him, he and Wole Soyinka, Professor Wole Soyinka, and several others had to go on exile. And now, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had been a senator since aborted Third Republic. He was senator in 1992. Recall, he was senator in to civil rule in 1999. He became governor, and he was 2-time governor. He has produced so many godsons, political godsons, including the outgoing vice president of Nigeria. So people believe that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the democratic credentials to see to the restructuring of Nigeria, because in fact there was a time Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu spearheaded the formation of a organization called CODA, Coalition for Democratic Reforms. CODA. He was part of the financiers of CODA, which people believe now that he now has to put his money where his mouth is. That all those agitations he has participated in since the aborted Third Republic down to this Fourth Republic, he now has opportunity to implement them. Believed that rebellion cannot exist without a feeling that somewhere in some way you are justified. The reason why IPOB is gaining traction today is because of the perceived injustices against the Southeasterners.
Exactly.
Particularly the non-implementation of the federal character principle. Why should there be lopsided in appointment and citing of projects? Recall that President Buhari said in 2015 on CNN with Chris to be the father of all. So what is believed now is that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, being a Democrat, being an activist, being somebody who has even sponsored bills, whose wife, in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we got 2 for the price of 1. He's a former senator, former governor. His vice president is a former governor, former senator. His wife is a former senator. So these three already have links with the Senate. So when you want to alter the constitution, they have allies within the National Assembly. And that's why Janice and Weir, that's why Ashwaju will be interested in who becomes the next president of the Senate and who becomes the next Speaker of House of Reps.
That's a separate,
yes.
That's a separate conversation.
So let's bring it in.
Likes of Oju Zokalu saying it's his turn for him to be the Senate president. It's good that you have brought it up. So just expatiate on it. Let's see.
Is it that it's a compensation now from Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Oju Zokalu to compensate for what has happened to the Southeast?
Or are we even looking at Tinubu making a different pick entirely from the push of Oju Zokalu for that particular seat?
Let's not forget also, Jide Ojo, that, you know, there has been other minority groups in Nigeria that have also been marginalized along those lines. If we are even saying that we should go for a Southeasterner as the Senate president, let's go back in time to find out how many people have been Senate president from the Southeast. What about states like Rivers State? What about states like Akwa Ibom State? What about states like Cross River State? These are minority groups that haven't produced a Senate president before. So when we're talking about even federal character principle, why not let it be all inclusive?
Okay, so I believe, South has produced former Senate President Joseph Wires of blessed memory. I hope
that is still in the UK and the government cannot bring his corpse down here for a proper burial. It's quite shameful.
I just offered the prayer now that I hope they will find money to bring his corpse for burial.
It's really shameful, sir.
I also had Godmewume Ezeoke from Southeast as Speaker. So the issue is this: compensation, political compensation is not new and it's not peculiar to Nigeria. There's what is called quid pro quo. Quid pro quo is, you know, what I will liken that to is rub my back, I rub your back. If you know, politics is all about game of interest. That's why there is no permanent friendship, there is no permanent PC to win on February 25th and then come around 3 weeks after to corner all the other seats for PDP. He knew what he was doing. He knew that, you know, he is serving out his second and final terms. For him to be in a position to negotiate for something under the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they want to see, what did you do for us? So it's all about trade-off. Politics is about trade-off. And it's not always a game of emotion. Because, look, I don't know whether you've seen this, Janice. Nigeria has over 350 tribes. 350 tribes. How do you sort out everybody? 350. Emilokan, yes, it's our turn. In fact, they have a saying in their local parlance, Ombashe. Ombashe is, it is our turn. That's what it means in their local language. And I recall that some years ago when Labaramaku was the Minister of Information, the Christian-dominated part of structuring, that let's alter the constitution to allow for power rotation. Let's allow for alteration of the constitution to recognize power rotation within states and within the federation. Because you've raised a very salient point. If you go by the number of Senate presidents that Southeast has produced, out of 14, they have Joseph, Uyocha Ayu, they've produced this other one that didn't stay. I've forgotten, about 2 or 3 from Benue State as served as Senate president. So what we are saying is that let's alter the constitution to recognize power rotation within the state. The Yewa Awori people of Ogun State, who are in the Ogun West, has never produced a governor in Ogun State. In Oyo State, the people of Oyo North, Shaki, Ishayin, and the rest, Kishi, has never produced a governor. Yet, if not for the sake of senatorial representation, that is 3, perhaps the Okun people who speaks Yoruba language has never produced governor. That's why if you watch the interview of somebody like Senator Smart Adeyemi, he is saying, in the last 32 years, where Yaya Bello comes from, which is Kogi Central. And even before the advent of Yaya Bello, there has been Adamu Ata in Second Republic, when in the old Kwara State, Adamu Ata is an Ebira man. The Idomas, who are the second largest ethnic group, tribe in Benue State, has never produced a governor, let alone talking of Igede or other minority groups.
The
so
conversation.
This Emilocon principle goes around every state. If you drill down, you'll find out that there's dominion and domination in each of the states. And that's why there's this call for alteration of the constitution to allow for power to rotate among the 3 senatorial districts. If this senatorial district has produced a governor for 8 years, let the power move to another. Maybe from north, you move to, look at Enugu State. The same thing is happening in Enugu. I just cited Enugu.
Yeah.
Even there's this other state that I wanted to mention, which I just forgot. So it's pan Nigeria that people felt marginalized because they have not been allowed access to power. And that's because of the abuse of the federal character principle that talks about that there must be no domination because of the need for power.
You don't need to ask another question. There's a lot more we can always talk about restructuring. Probably we'll have Jide Ojo, back another time because we are out of time. But it's been such a great conversation with you this morning, mostly educating, falling back on history to know where, and how far we can go. But we will certainly have this conversation again because there's a lot of people that are against restructuring and they have their reasons for, So definitely we'll have you on this conversation some other time. This is a big thank you to you, Jide Ojo, for coming on set with us on Rise and Shine this morning to have this conversation.
My regards to your families, and please have fun on this Easter celebration.
That a lot of people are clamoring for restructuring, and I like the fact that he has also made mention of the fact that what's the type of governance we are operating in Nigeria is quite weak. It's those that are against restructuring and why they are against it as well. But this is where we draw the curtains on the show this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, be good and be good citizens of the country. My name is Janice Kabum. Bye-bye for now.
My name is Uya Eneka. We do hope that you enjoy the rest of your public holiday. Of course, stay tuned to Spectrum Television and enjoy the rest of our programming. We leave you now to Sports Central.